morning. Happy Monday. I'm so glad to see you all here today. So I want to ask you a little bit about what it means for you to see your blind spots and understand that we all have blindness in our lives. So that's important for us to understand. But we need it in order to be as happy and successful as we possibly can. We really need to have our core beliefs, our core values aligned with our vision. So that's why our special guest is coming on today to talk to us about how he has his own way of looking at life and how he has his vision aligned with his core beliefs, his core values. But before we go there, I also want to make sure you understand that at the end of the show, we're going to be announcing a few other people that we're going to have coming on this week, and it's going to be phenomenal. I can't wait to tell you about it. So look forward to sharing that with you here in another 30 minutes or so after our show. But please stick around, and we will talk to you then. Thank you very much. And without any further ado, I want to bring on our guest today, Marc Ensign.
Hey, Brian. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Fantastic.
So how do you pronounce your last name?
It's you were close. It's actually Ensign, like in the Navy, but at this point, like I've answered to so much worse, and I've been called so much worse that I'll Ensign is fine too. Ensign, got it.
Yes. Well, that's awesome. So that's good to know. So before we go too much further, I just want to ask you if you would tell us your story, and this can be 2 or 3 minutes of you talking. I'm going to go off camera for a little bit and just have your own. At it. So
all right, well, you're opening a can of worms because I can tell my story for the next 45 minutes. So I let's see, I grew up in New Jersey and ended up going to school to become a professional musician with this dream of working on Broadway, which seemed impossible at the time, but I was relentless. I had nothing but tenacity, and somehow over the course of about 2 years, made my way into Broadway as a bass player for the Broadway show Rent, and did that for a whole bunch of years, traveled around the country, around the world, and then eventually came home, settled down, and woke up one morning and decided that I had this dream of changing the world, of making a difference. And at my midlife crisis was like I didn't buy a fancy car or anything like that. What I did was I had a panic attack over having not made a difference in the world, and sold everything I owned and dragged my family 1,200 miles away from New Jersey to Tampa, Florida, which is I'm still not quite sure why I had this idea that if you're going to change the world, you can't live in New Jersey, but that was what I had done, and so my wife and I moved down to Tampa about 7 years ago, and that's where everything kind of really, my life really took an interesting turn, because in the middle of this midlife crisis, I ran into my neighbor Dick, who is just this extraordinary person that really taught me what it meant to make a difference in the world, and enough so that I ended up writing a book about it, and kind of chased that rabbit down the rabbit hole, and here we are.
So there's a lot there, but
there's a lot there.
Before we go too much farther, let me ask you about pizza.
Okay.
What is your favorite kind of pizza? You're a New Yorker, kind of. I mean,
sure.
Are you more into the New York style pizza, or is there something else?
So yeah, I'm definitely. I mean, I do like the Chicago pizza, like the deep dish, but I would have to say my favorite is definitely like that thin crust, like kind of New York, Brooklyn style pizza, definitely.
And do you get any of that in where you live in Tampa?
Absolutely not. The pizza here is horrifying. It's just awful.
So what kind of pizza do they have there? Are you local places or what?
You just don't.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't even embarrass myself by naming names and pretending to call it pizza. It's just not the same.
Well, that's interesting. So tell me a little bit about some of the things you're doing. So you obviously you wrote a book. Tell me about your book. Being a dick. So how to go? Don't be a dick or be a
No,
dick.
it's actually be a dick.
Yeah.
And it, obviously it kind of plays off of that, phrase that's been so coined over and over again. Don't be a dick. Like I was saying, I moved down to Florida in the middle of this midlife crisis. The thoughts spinning in my head: do I matter? Does my life mean anything? Have I created a legacy? Like all that stuff that those insecurities really kind of came to the surface, and thinking that moving to Tampa, Florida for some reason was going to fix all that. And then realizing that it's not only did it not fix it, but now it's made everything worse because I sold everything. Like I made this, like, it's not like I can undo this mistake. Like I made this really rash decision to move, and I can't undo it now. And so now I have to really kind of swim in it and make good out of this whole thing. And I was literally driving my wife crazy, pacing the house, second guessing everything. And she sent me out the door with my kids. I went for a walk and I ran into our neighbor who lives 7, 8 houses down the road. And his name was Dick. And as luck would have it, like he just was this extraordinary guy. Really took me and my family under his wing, and was really kind to us and compassionate, and he just had all these different principles of how he lived life. And I just woke up one morning, I was like, that's who I want to be like. I want to be like that. I mean, here's this guy making this big difference in my world.
Yeah.
And he's not building schools in third world countries or all these grandiose things that we seem to think are required in order to make a difference in the world. He's not doing any of that. Instead, he's just being a good person, and he's taking on all these like kind of micro actions to make the world a better place, and they all just kind of add up. And so he, unbeknownst to him, like he became my mentor. I would follow him around like a puppy dog, and just learn from the guy. And I wrote a blog post about it, a couple months into our friendship, and it went viral. And then that turned into like I should write a book about it. But I wasn't ready for a while. It took a couple years for me to be ready and kind of get through the whole story before I could actually write it. And so that's what the book is about. The book is that journey of kind of finding yourself and finding that you already have everything inside of you to make a difference in the world. You just have to be reminded of it.
Wow. So before you go any further, I want to encourage our listeners to put in a hashtag live if they're listening live. Put in a hashtag replay if they're coming in for a replay. Share this video out with as many people as you can think of. So make sure that you're expanding the community, the group that we have here that are listening to really understand how important it is to have your vision aligned with your core values and your core beliefs. So Marc Ensign, it's been phenomenal to hear what you've gone through.
Sure.
And all that. So and to have your neighbor be so willing to give so much to you. So
when you say like I would correct you and say willing, because like he didn't really know that I was stalking him as as much as I was, because it was because the interesting thing about him was that he like he hadn't split the atom. He wasn't this like it's not like I moved down the street from Mark Cuban, or somebody that like he just was a good person. And he's very successful. He had a whole bunch of Emmys, hanging on a wall in his in his office, but like you would never know because he's as humble as the day is long. So he had all those qualities, but it wasn't like a flashy thing. Like he didn't have an Instagram account for his Emmys. Like they just lived in his office as a gentle reminder of his success. If I had a bunch of Emmys, I'd either have them tattooed on my face, or I'd make a pair of earrings out of them. Like if I had an Emmy, you would know about it like every day.
Yeah.
So but no, he was very just humble and generous and kind, and all these different attributes, all these different core values that he had that I think we're all inherently born with, but we just kind of forget about.
Yeah. Wow, there's a lot of truth to that. So tell me, what do you think is the biggest factor in your success? Because I mean, you've been successful with the book, you've been successful with what you're doing. So you're wanting to go from being was a guitarist,
Bass guitar.
bass guitar with Rent, and being able to go from that to moving to Florida, to pursue your passion of making a difference in people's lives. So you've been successful with that. What is the biggest factor in your success?
I found that whenever I stopped listening to I don't mean for this to come out wrong, but I stopped listening to everybody else and just listen to my gut and just believe in something that I want. Like I was told no easily 1,000 times that I was not good enough for Broadway. I didn't belong there. I had no experience. I had no connections. I had just come out of college. It was, I was totally unqualified for that job, but I wanted it so bad that I couldn't hear all those no's. I was just so focused and so tenacious, and and every time I hit a brick wall, I looked for another way around it. When people would stop returning my phone calls, I started. I convinced a magazine to let me write an article about what it's like to work on Broadway. So now everybody wanted to be my friend, and because they wanted to be in the article. And so I just always found other ways and creative ways around it. So it's that tenacity and that creativity, I think that does it every time. When I know this because I failed an awful lot too, and I noticed that when I failed, it's because I let that that thing whisper in my ear that you know how hard it is to get a book published, how hard it is to do this, how hard it is to do that. And then I kind of, after a while, it eats away at you, and you start to listen and you start to believe it, and once you start to believe it, you're done. There's no way.
Yeah. So how did you allow yourself not to believe it, not to go there? I mean, that's a hard thing to do.
So when I wanted to do Broadway, I had nothing to lose. Like I had nothing. I lived in a spare bedroom in my mom's house. Like, there was, I had nothing at all to lose. And then as I got married and had kids, I found that I played it a lot safer. And because I played it a lot safer, I failed a lot more often. And so I think that once you kind of get back to that, what's the worst that can happen? What do I have to lose? And just really convince yourself to like swing the bat. Like, look, you're standing up at the plate, and there's a good chance that you might get walked, or there's a good chance you might get hit with the ball. You might find yourself on base, but there's such a better chance if you swing and try to get some wood on the ball. And worst case scenario, if you strike out or if you get out, like in 9 more turns, you're up at bat again. And so you get to try it again.
Well, you are humble, and I appreciate that. So Dawn Miller says, this is so good. I freaking love your personality and openness, Mark.
Thank you, Dawn. What's that?
Do you know Dawn?
Not personally, no.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's awesome. So your personality, your humbleness is great, and I love that. So tell me about some challenges or obstacles you're still trying to overcome.
I think right now so much of it is about the book, and there's still that need to to really want to get it into everybody's hands, wanting to see like wanting to be pat on the back for your effort, and I did this thing, it's so meaningful to me, and so there's that challenge of like, well, I don't want to be over salesy and talk about this all the time and make it sound like I'm talking about myself, but it's something that I really believe in, and I believe everybody needs to read it.
Yeah.
And so there's a little bit of like that kind of pushing that rock up that hill. That's kind of tough, and still and I still have that thing whispering in my ear that says, is it really good enough? It's a little, maybe it's not, maybe
I'm not that good of a writer. All this stuff.
Yeah, like, oh my English teacher in high school passed me as a favor. Like she was just, like it was one of those things that like we all know that you're never gonna read or write another word once you leave high school. You're just gonna go do your music thing, and that's the last time you'll ever open a book. And so there's a little bit of that still lives there, where it's just like I wrote a book, but I wasn't supposed to. And so like so much of that, I think I don't know if you ever get away from it, but every now and then it creeps up, and you just have to kind of acknowledge it and kind of laugh it off, make a joke out of it, and then I just kind of move on.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So, what's the best advice? And maybe this came from Dick. What's the best advice you've ever gotten?
Like ever, or
Ever,
just
ever.
So I think it was probably passed down from my folks. Like when I decided that I was going to be a musician, they didn't flinch. And being a parent myself, like like I can imagine what that must be like. Like, hey, I got this great idea. Like, I don't want to be an architect. Instead of being an architect, I want to be a bass player. And then
Cool.
I could just imagine being parents going like, oh my God, what have we done? Like, where did we go wrong? Not that there's anything wrong with being a bass player per se, but it's just a hard life. It's there's it's just like you're unemployed at the end of every gig every night kind of feeling about it. But I was so passionate about it, and I love the idea of uh, that they just said okay, like they were just we trust you, we believe in you, go do it, and if you screw it up, you can always change your mind. And I think that was probably the best advice I ever got, because it like when I go from there, I think I could do almost anything. And also I think it's also helped me as a parent, when my daughter, who's getting ready for college, says, hey, I want to go into political science because I want to become an activist, and then have me go, okay, let's do this, let's figure this out. I don't know what it looks like, but I'm open, let's try it.
Right. Being closed and telling him you can't do that. You'll never make any money doing that. That's the wrong. I think that's the wrong message to send. So,
Of course.
I've got a son who's an architect, believe it or not. I've got a daughter who's a teacher. She's going to be a teacher. And then my youngest son, he's working his way through engineering. So they're all different, and to put anything on them tells them they can't do whatever. I think it's a bad idea. So
Yeah.
Dawn Miller here says that you can send your book to her, and she'll definitely critique it if you want her to.
I don't know. Is she harsh? Or is she
I don't know.
is she gonna be nice? We'll have to find out if she's gonna be nice or not.
So what do you do daily? Is there something you do daily that brings you clarity?
So I meditate for 20 minutes every morning, first thing, and I have kind of my regiment that's kind of like a bastardized version of Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning that I've known Hal for many years, and I always say, like, I've known Hal ever since when he used to sleep in. so
I don't know Hal Elrod.
Hal Elrod, yeah, he wrote a book called The Miracle Morning, and brilliant guys. Probably just the salt of the earth. Really, really nice guy. Definitely worth checking him out. So I wake up every morning. I meditate for 20 minutes every morning. I read for a little bit, and I go out for a 3-mile walk every morning before I really kind of do anything. That's just how I start my day, and that kind of lets me shake off the previous day, anything that's like any seeds that potentially get planted. Like I know I have a full day, I know I have a lot to do. It's a Monday, I got a lot to catch up on. But before that overwhelm kind of settles in, let me calm myself down. Let me shut everything out. Let me go out for a walk, listen to some music. Then I can worry about the stuff let that overwhelm kind of creep in when I'm actually sitting in front of a computer where I can actually do something about it, not when I'm still laying in bed or trying to get some exercise.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I like that. So Tell me what does your next level of success look like?
So, my goal for 2021 is to really start a movement around this whole be a dick thing. I just think it's such a great message. It's such a needed message right now. It's gotten such great feedback and love from people that I know and people I don't know. And so I feel like this is my moment. I've been trying to figure out how am I going to make a difference, and I feel like this is it, at least right now. So my goal is to really kind of build a community of people that are running around being dicks to other people.
It's even hard to say, isn't it?
It's fun to say. Like, it's my 12-year-old self is like giddy that I get to, that this is what I get to do now, talk about. And so I want to build that community. I want to and I want to get the book picked up by a big publisher. Not about the money or anything like that, as much as it's about the reach. I want this thing in everybody's hands.
Wow, that's awesome. I would love to get one in my hand. How do I get a hold of one?
So, well, I told you if you're nice, I'll hook you up. But
so far so good.
so far you've been pretty nice. But the best place to go is the website for the book is iwanttobeadick.com.
Oh, you know what? I think I put in a banner here for that. Sorry, go ahead.
Sure. So it's iwanttobeadick.com, and that'll give you where to get the book. You can download the like a preview of the book, like the first couple chapters, and really kind of get a feel for what it's about. And right now I'm starting to get like a lot of kind of user generated content, so to speak. Like, everybody's sending, for lack of a better term, their dick pics of them with the good ones, like them with the book, and just their stories about people in their lives that have been dicks to them, or the time that they did something nice for somebody else. And a lot of people are sharing stories with me, like simple things of hey, I was at the grocery store the other day, and there was an older gentleman that was having a hard time putting stuff in the trunk of his car, and I just I saw somebody actually park their car and jump out and help, and then get back in and leave. Which is extraordinary when you think about it, because it's not like I happen to be walking by and let me help you. It was somebody that was leaving, that stopped their car, got out, ran over and helped, and just did a kind, it took 3 minutes out of their day. But it's that level of kindness that I think that we really all need, and that's what being a dick is all about. It's doing stuff like that, being it's those little things, those micro actions.
Yeah, the micro actions. I heard you say that before. That's a nice way of looking at it.
Yeah. And what I love about it is, and I love about that whole idea is that, and what I learned from Dick is that you don't need to, walk across the country in order to make a difference in the world. You don't need to raise millions of dollars in order to make a difference in the world. It's those little things that accumulate over time that really make the difference, that really change the world. And it's not to say that giving money away and all that is not good. It's amazing. Some people just don't have the resources or the time or the access to be able to do, like, I can't quit my job and build a school across the country. I'm not running into burning buildings anytime soon, but here's something that I can do. And I think it's just really important.
Well, that's incredible. So we have a little over 5-6 minutes left. So I want to ask you, what do you do to recharge?
So I am I'm kind of an ambivert. Like, I'm introverted by nature, but like I like being the center of attention for like a little while, and then I need to go curl up in the fetal position where when nobody's around, and just kind of recharge my batteries. So like, I got so much pent up energy from this quarantine because I've just been home for so long. I haven't seen people outside of my family for so long. And I haven't traveled, haven't done any speaking this year. So I got more energy than I know what to do with at this point. And beyond that, like, as far as exercise go, like I said, I always go out for a walk every morning, and I always I try to put in about 10-15 miles on a bike every day. Although I've been kind of somewhat unsuccessful lately because it's gotten cold out.
Yeah.
Uh,
You don't do a stationary bike.
no, because it's not about the pedaling for me. It's about like just kind of looking around and just observing the world. Putting on some music and just riding, out in the road, almost getting hit by cars and stuff like that too. But
That's
like
fun.
it just keeps you on your toes.
So I gotta ask you're like me. You're working from home, right? You
Yeah.
don't spend too much time with other people. But who helps to see your blind spots?
Um, I think I'd like to think that I have like a pretty decent community of people like I'm very open to criticism and constructive criticism and really tell me what you think and so you get to know me well enough, then you know how welcome I am to people calling me out. So I have kind of that open door policy that like, hey, if you see me being stupid, like let me know. Like I want to know. Like when I had the when I was finishing the process of writing the book and I had the first or second draft, I started off with 5 people reading it. Before I released it to everybody, I think 75 people were in a launch team that had read the book and just gave me a handful of criticism of like what you need to change and here's what I like and what I don't like, and because I welcome that. Like I want to hear it. So and I'm also my own worst critic sometimes too. So I'm always looking for blind spots on myself.
Yeah.
Which is, I guess doesn't make it a blind spot, but yeah.
Well, right. Yeah, as I say, you can't identify your own blind spots on your own. It wouldn't be considered blind spots.
But I try. That's
Yeah,
the
you gotta
important
try.
thing.
It's all right. It's all good.
I try.
So, your high school teacher said you'd never be really interested in reading going forward. Do you read anything now?
Oh yeah.
What do
I
you read?
read. I exclusively read nonfiction books. Like I don't like reading. Like you're not gonna catch me reading Harry Potter or anything like that. Like it's just not like And this is probably what she means is that like, look, if there's a movie, if I can bang this whole thing out in an hour and a half, and not have to read the book, like that's where I'm going with it. So I read a ton of nonfiction books. Like right now, I'm actually reading a book on the forming of like cults and movements and stuff like that, because it's just something I'm very interested in, like that idea of like how do you get people to rally around something so passionately. Obviously with a cult there's that negativity about it, and then there's also the other side of it, getting people to rally around a GoFundMe page or something along those lines that where you can actually do some good with it.
Wow. That's cool. I've not heard many people that are into that. So
Yeah, it's not like from a weird way. I don't want everybody thinking like oh boy, here he's got off the reservation. Like I'm going to start some Kool-Aid thing out, out in a field somewhere. It's not going to happen.
Well, tell me. That's really the majority of the questions that I had for you. But tell me something interesting about you. Tell me a fun fact that we maybe don't know.
A fun fact. Okay, here's a fun fact for you that you don't know, or you probably don't know. So when I was 13, I think it was 13 or 14, I got hit by a car, and I was riding my bike, and so there you go. And I got hit by a car, and when I tried to walk away, I kept falling, and then I realized that I broke my leg, and my leg was completely snapped in half. And so I got taken away by the ambulance, going to the hospital. And when the doctor, I had a really bad doctor, and when the doctor fused my leg back together, like, set my leg and put the cast on, he did it at a 15-degree angle. So, and we didn't realize this until we went to another doctor like 2 months later, and the other doctor's like, yeah, he put your leg on wrong. And so I was like, oh, well, what do we do? Like, well, we can either re-break it, or we can deal with it. There are ways that we can fix it once you take the cast off. So I said, well, let's do that. Like, my parents are like, yeah, let him decide. He's only 13. He knows what's best. And so I was like, well, I don't want to re-break it because that really hurt. So let's just go with it. And so that's what we did. And so now to this day, and the solution was, let's put your 16 degree angle. sneakers on opposite feet. That'll help it, because my left leg is like, I don't know, I can do this like it's weird backwards. My left leg turns in. That's my left leg. My left leg turns in like about 15, 20 degrees. And so like the funny thing to me, like now I can laugh about it. As a kid, I was mortified, but now I laugh about it because now I have I consider myself having two right feet, because it always looks like my body is turning to the to the right when I'm walking.
That is interesting.
So that's a little known fact for you.
That is a fun fact. I'm so glad I asked.
That's right.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for being on today. I truly appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
I look forward to reading your book. And what I'd like to do, I'd like to trade you books. So I'll send you one of mine if you send me one of yours.
That sounds fair. It's a weird thing to say. Show you mine, I'll show you yours. When the name of my book is Be a Dick, but but yeah,
that's too funny.
Like a fair trade.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, and I appreciate you. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Back to the green room, but tell everyone we say hello or say goodbye, and we'll see you soon.
Excellent.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, wow. What a show. I love it. Be a Dick. So Marc Ensign, and he was phenomenal. So tomorrow we have Ed Tate coming on, and Ed Tate is a speaker machine, and he's a coach, and he just does a great job. So I'm looking forward to having you on with Ed Tate tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Then Wednesday, I told you I wasn't going to be around on Wednesday, but we're going to maybe have my buddy Wes Wyatt join us on Wednesday, and he'll do the show without me. And then Mark Brown. On Thursday will be Mark Brown, another phenomenal coach. It's just a great, great guy. So the voice of Mark Brown is phenomenal. And then Friday we have the 10 o'clock show will be Larry Levine, another great speaker. He speaks on leadership. And then at 11:30 we're going to have Tom Shovelton. And Tom Shovelton has a daughter and that's for the Stroke of Genius show. Tom Shovelton has a daughter who's 29, and she is autistic, very much dependent on a lot of other people to help her to get through her day. So Tom is going to be here to share with us his perspective on disabilities and his perspective on caregivers. So I'm so looking forward to all of that. I'm just very appreciative of all that you've done and how you've been here with me through all these shows, and we're going to continue to try to serve you as best we can. So if there's ever anything that I can do for you, by all means, let me know. But as a call to action, I want to make sure that you're putting into your comments and whatever social media you're on, just put in the comments of Winking with Wagner. Put in Brian with one eye, hashtag Brian with one eye, hashtag Winking with Wagner, a picture of you winking, and then I will be able to enter you into a raffle, and we'll raffle your name or we'll raffle off a copy of my book, a signed copy of my book, and we will go from there. So again, I appreciate all that you've done and all that you do. Thank you so much, and as always, keep one eye on the road.